In our modern world of science-based technology, it seems like there is only room for facts. Stories that describe invisible realms and beings sound like fairy tales that are left for entertainment purposes and are rarely ever taken seriously. In mythology, we often see the rich and deep allegories, metaphors, or psychological associations intricately woven into the characters and events. But there's also a transcendence between realms that might not get as much attention. It is hard for us to imagine planes of existence completely different from our own. The most enduring stories in history are rooted in a belief that there is somewhere we go to after death. And although they may seem like just fairy tales, the reality of other planes of existence is something that mythology and science can both agree on. For eons, mythology has been supported by a concept of the afterlife. World-renowned mythologist Joseph Campbell in The Power of Myth says, "The basic theme of all mythology is that there is an invisible plane supporting the visible one. Our ancestors used their knowledge, experience, and imaginations to communicate a belief that part of us goes away after death. There is typically a place in the sky or heaven, and a place within the ground or underworld to which we could go. Earth, our normal experience, is usually the middle or somehow in between. In heaven, there is perfection and pleasure, often referred to as a paradise. The underworld is a place of suffering and hardships. These upper and lower realms are places that heroes often travel to while overcoming different obstacles or trials. The upper, middle, and lower worlds are symbolized in mythological stories in many ways and are often represented as a tree, pillar, pole, ladder, bridge, mountain, axis, or navel. All these images are considered the center of the world and a means of travel between the different planes. When we read about a sacred mountain in a myth, we want to geographically find that mountain and point to it. That is the mountain they mention in the myth. But this imagery is only symbolic of an invisible plane that is outside our normal dimension. So, technically, it doesn't have a physical location. There could be many different places considered the center because it is not a physical center, but a concept of being centered, inside and within, and is essentially anywhere and everywhere supporting the different planes. These images always incorporate multiple facets of information. For instance, the center as a mountain is usually a place where the deities reside that create and interact with the world. The mountain also represents a difficult obstacle one must climb to reach the lofty place of that higher dimension. The center as a tree shows the support and the interconnectedness of the different planes, the roots in the ground or underworld, and the branches up above or in heaven. The trunk in the middle as support and a means of travel between the worlds. While scientists may not have established communication with beings from other planes or dimensions, they do have mathematical theories that suggest the reality of other planes of existence beyond our perception. These other planes or dimensions would be nearly inconceivable compared to our normal understanding of the world. While describing the mathematical implications of other dimensions, American physicist Michio describes the underlying structure of mythology almost perfectly and was most likely not even aware of it. When he addressed the question of where these other dimensions are, he explains that they could be so small that we don't notice them. They could be everywhere all around us and even inside us. If you think of our observational world and zoom in at any point, it is a way of contracting or lowering the viewpoint beyond our normal sense. This is comparable to the underworld, an invisible place inside or under the earth, the lower region. Kaku also explains the opposite, that dimensions could be so large that we don't notice. This would be like expanding our observation and looking up into the sky or heaven. So, the places where physicists say other dimensions could exist are the same places outlined in mythology as the upper and lower regions. According to Campbell, consciousness is not limited to our own experience. It exists all around us, in plants, in our bodies, and in the world itself. He expands consciousness to include active interactions and processes in nature. At their origin, the fantastical stories of ancient myths were ways of understanding the energies, forces, and entities involved in these interactions. Gods and beings in mythological stories are personified natural energies and forces. As Campbell says it, I see a deity as representing an energy system, and part of the energy system is the human energy systems. I believe energies are given human or animal qualities to make them more relatable to our experience and more rememberable. They are made human to make the stories real and tangible. Maybe they are also personified to show that they are conscious beings. It is possible that some aspect of us, or our consciousness, is a type of energy that has its own existence. At death, we may be transferred or dispersed among these forces that will allow us to experience a different plane. After all, energy is never created or destroyed, but it can change form. Physicist Michio says, when you look around you and you see the different forces, mountains, clouds, planets, it's broken. We live in a horribly broken world, but at the instant of creation, there was perfection. There was perfection in a higher dimension. He describes a heaven-like state of perfection existing before the Big Bang burst everything into creation, then all was broken up into pieces. He explains how our theories of the different forces and energies don't really go together until we introduce the concept of other dimensions. Quantum theory, the theory of the small things, doesn't really mesh well with the theory of relativity and space-time or the theory of the large. When we add more dimensions, the pieces start fitting together. Among the disorder of all the trials and tribulations of life, there is a center, a quiet place of rest, a nirvana. Campbell tells us, unless this center has been found, you're torn apart. Tension comes. The rich, overlapping nature of mythological concepts shines through Campbell's summary of reaching our center by overcoming the obstacles of desire, fear, and social commitment. These concepts directly correspond to heaven, the underworld, and earth. We can see that this center of consciousness parallels the symbol of the center between the three realms referred to earlier. The center of peace and rest is representative of a heaven, a sacred mountain, tree, or pillar. When Kaku described the perfect condition existing before the Big Bang, it is strikingly similar to how Campbell says that without the center we are torn apart. Tension follows because the pieces no longer fit together like they once did. We may have reached a time when we need to turn over a new leaf and allow a transformation of our consciousness. We can start from a belief that there are invisible planes or dimensions that support our current experience of consciousness. A belief that is rooted in our oldest and most fantastical stories and supported by our rigorous pursuit of math and science. The knowledge accumulated in mythology and the knowledge accumulated in science is knowledge about the same thing. It only appears different because they are from different levels of consciousness. We can really expand our knowledge if we learn to look at mythology in a scientific way and look at science in a mythological way. The foundation of myth is an intimate expression of the natural world. Next time you see an amazing sunset or the beauty of a flower, keep in mind that there may be other ways to experience nature and that it is truly possible that consciousness can exist all around us. It all comes down to the way we consciously navigate our experiences and interactions with the world around us.